Hi, my name is Lena Miller. I am here to introduce you to the Student Sustainability Summit. I'm from James Madison University in Harrisonburg, Virginia. And Heather, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, my name is Heather Korzun. I am an intern at Sustainable Shenandoah Valley, and I was the primary organizer for the Student Sustainability Summit this past April.
Awesome. Thank you, Heather. The Student Sustainability Summit will definitely get into the details of what that is with you and explain how you might want to host your own sustainability summit focusing on the SDGs. But before we do that, I want to tell you a bit about the overarching organization called Sustainable Shenandoah Valley. Heather, could you give me, there we go. Sustainable Shenandoah Valley is a regional center of expertise for education for sustainable development, which is a United Nations designation. Our mission is to foster collaborative partnerships for a sustainable Shenandoah Valley. And as you can see there on the map, the Shenandoah Valley is in the north central part of Virginia. And our RCE is a collaboration of 5 different institutions of higher learning. Those are Bridgewater College, Eastern Mennonite University, Blue Ridge Community College, as well as Mary Baldwin University and James Madison University. 2 of the primary goals for our RCE are to amplify and maximize existing community efforts and addressing the sustainable development goals, and to connect our Valley sustainability efforts more explicitly to those goals. The Student Sustainability Summit is definitely a good example of a way that we are trying to meet those goals. So Heather is here and she'll tell us many more details about that summit. Heather, why don't you just give us a snapshot of just what is the Student Sustainability Summit?
Yeah, absolutely. So the summit was an academic conference that took place in April of last year. It was for students by students, and its purpose was to showcase student research and projects specifically relating to the Sustainable Development Goals. So we kind of started with 2 of our primary goals in mind ourselves, which was to facilitate specifically student networks, kind of get these students talking to each other regarding these considerations, these issues, and also the work that they have done. So we really wanted to highlight their work, their projects, their research in order to kind of, foster that collaborative network. So we chose a conference format just to kind of provide sort of a legitimate kind of presence to the vibe of the summit, and we kind of we're looking for presentations that could kind of comfortably fit within those goals and start some conversations around them.
So did you design the summit as just a one-day conference for students?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it was one day in and of itself, but we totally were reaching for the stars when we came up with the idea, and we titled it the first annual Student Sustainability Summit. So I fully intended on making this something that would continue past me and into sort of the successive years of Sustainable Shenandoah Valley. So we handed off the summit to another student group that is going to be continuing it for this year, actually 2023's.
Awesome. And actually, Sustainable Shenandoah Valley does hope to make this an annual event, and it will be hosted by one of the institutions that are part of our network every year. So Heather, why don't you talk about how long it took you to plan an event like this, and what did the final event look like?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so the goals, we started with the goals about like a year before the actual conference took place. And we kind of developed a specifically very long timeline. We gave ourselves a lot of leeway just because we were creating the first version of this particular event, and we wanted to make sure that we gave ourselves enough time to hammer out all the details, especially me as an undergraduate student. I did this my junior year of undergrad, really not having any experience in event planning, not anything too significant. So I gave myself a lot of time and my team a lot of time in order to plan this. So we would probably recommend, though, for successive summits, and if you are interested in starting a summit of your own on any scale you would like, to start probably about 5 months out with the call for presentations, to try to specifically find individuals and student groups who, are really dedicated to their work that can be related to the Sustainable Development Goals. This doesn't necessarily have to be organizations or individuals or research that already has a connection to the SDGs. The really good thing about the SDGs is that they cover so many different areas. Almost anything can connect to those if it involves, environmental or social activism, research issues, anything like that. So we really had a lot of luck trying to seek out those specific passionate individuals and groups and kind of tapping shoulders to say, hey, I heard you're doing this really, really interesting research project on the urban heat island effect, or I know that there's a student group on JMU's campus who is doing a lot of work with the people who are homeless in the Harrisonburg community. And so we had a lot of luck kind of specifically trying to find those individuals and inviting them to apply for a presentation opportunity, and probably give them about a month, maybe 2 months to kind of review the proposals to make sure they got in. And we accepted them about 3 months out from the event. We sent them some specific feedback to make sure that they were specifically relating their research or their work to a specific sustainable development goal or to the goals as a whole. And one of the ways that we funded this was sort of partially through a environmental club budget at my university, but also through SSV a little bit from some of the member institutions. And we also decided to seek out sponsorships from local organizations that we knew, kind of like the student projects, already had a relatively strong connection to social or environmental activism, or kind of like B Corporation, or kind of different things that could be related to the SDGs, just like the presentations. So we did that about 2 months out. We started searching for those, confirming some of those sponsorships, and we made some specific like day of arrangements, making sure that everything was all sorted out about a month before the event, and set the schedule, got all the advertising out. We sent out RSVP stuff during this entire process, making sure we were advertising all over all the campuses, and then we had the summit.
That does sound like a whole lot of work, a lot of planning. So when you were doing the publicity, did you reach out to faculty across the different campuses?
Yes. We found that one of the best ways, in my experience as a club leader, the best way to get people to attend events is to kind of have people reach out to them individually. And so we contacted professors that were sort of associated with SSV, or were teaching classes that could be associated with environmental or social issues, and we saw if they could kind of advertise in their class what the summit was, and get some students interested. And we also made sure we had student representatives on each campus, just because, like, I'm from Mary Baldwin, we have some students from JMU involved with the planning process, but some of our institutions weren't heavily involved in like the day-to-day efforts of planning. So we had to make sure that we had a representative from each campus, just to make sure that they, not to be super involved in the planning, and if they were busy, that was fine, but just to spread the information, the posters, the hype to the other campuses.
Okay, great. Yeah, that looks really good. So that's your event planning timeline. What does the actual event look like?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we ended up with, I think, 11 different presentations, and we had them kind of running simultaneously. So this was sort of an example schedule for if you would like to create a summit of your own. If you would like to have a keynote speaker kind of at the beginning, that's something that we're going to feature in the second Student Sustainability Summit, but we didn't have one in the first. And then, so we had our presentation periods running about 2 presentations simultaneously. So our attendees would select the presentation that they most wanted to go to, and kind of sort of choose your own adventure style, planned out their day at the summit based on their own interests. So we had like 2 presentations that ran at the same time, and then people would move to the next dual set and pick one. And we kind of tried to intersperse lunch and networking in between those different presentation periods. Definitely, a good decision that we made was kind of trying to shake it up a little bit with the different activities that were going on. So we would have, some presentations, then the lunch, then networking, to try to keep it, interesting, make it diversified so attendees don't get bored. But as for the content of the presentations, it was really, really exciting to see all of the different things that students, were doing in the Shenandoah Valley, especially stuff that, I would never really hear EMU students talk about their work on their campus, or, we had a Bridgewater student, as I said earlier, mapping local heat islands in Harrisonburg. Never would have, met Trevor or been able to, really ask him about what that was like doing that research and how he got involved and how he engaged with the community in Harrisonburg. So a lot of these kind of, you sort of picture yourself as somebody doing sustainability or SDG adjacent work, kind of as like an isolated island if you don't have, an opportunity to build connections with, other students and professors and different work that's going on in the community. And so we had a whole plethora of different things that were great to hear about that I never would have ran into. Otherwise, we had a local carbon sequestration efforts with a few different farming groups that had specific agricultural connections. We had some innovative approaches to remediating microplastics, which was a engineering group from JMU who were creating a microplastic kind of machine that would get microplastics out of natural bodies of water, and it was based off of using like principles of biomimicry, the Portuguese man-o-war creature design. And so they kind of took principles from that and applied it to their engineering project. Obviously they could present that a whole lot better than I just did there, but that's okay. Yeah, it was really, really great to see all of the work that was around all these different areas.
Yeah, that sounds like such a great collaborative event and a way to meet other students who are doing important work right here in your hometown that you wouldn't have had a chance to meet otherwise. And you also had representation from local activists who got to see what's happening on the campuses all across the Shenandoah Valley, and see some of them I know actually learned what the SDGs are at this event. Because each one of these presentations, the students were connecting their research and their work to the Sustainable Development Goals. And so that was a very effective community education outcome that we didn't even expect to happen. But it was great to just make those connections, and the community activists were able to connect with students who might be doing work that's very relevant to their own mission.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was very unintended. I mean, we needed money, so we got some sponsors, and it turned out that just because we were very specifically local, a lot of the organizations that sponsored us were really, doing some really interesting stuff, and we really provided a great opportunity to network with them, which we had considered, but I didn't think it would be such an impact.
Yeah, that was a really,
conference.
really cool connection that happened there. And at future summits, we're definitely going to have a very similar kind of approach, to have not just a collaboration of the local universities and colleges, but to also include community activists and organizations that are doing great work right here in our town. So what were some of the positive outcomes of the summit, and some of the lessons learned?
Yeah, I mean, there were some really specific, interesting things that came out of the summit. I, for one, am running a compost initiative at Mary Baldwin University. And so I got a chance this was when the project was in kind of its sort of initial planning stages, proof of concept. And I got a chance to specifically network with some people from Eastern Mennonite University who had a whole on-campus composting operation that kind of fed into their community garden, and just sort of the way that they took that process and specifically applied it in an institution of higher learning, especially with high turnover for student leaders in their organization, was really, really great to hear about. And so I got some really great pointers specifically about compost strategy. And speaking of the biomimicry device, we had some Shenandoah River, there was a Shenandoah River organization representative there who reached out to the biomimicry group, and they had plans to test the device directly following the conference. So that was
Oh,
a
that's
really,
really
really
cool.
great,
Yeah.
specific outcome. So excited
Uh-huh.
to hear about that. And then overall, I think just hearing how much student-led projects can have an impact on other students, because you don't really understand the full potential of what you can do as a student until you have, these examples of, people working to the best of their ability at, in their area or in an area that you may be passionate about. It's just a great opportunity to become inspired by people who are in like the same place as you, the same age as you, the same sort of experience, that you can make a difference, even now. It was really, really great. And and then the partnerships with communities and really getting connected. Again, you're at an undergraduate institution, you're probably only going to be there for 4 years, especially if you are from out of town. You're not, it's kind of difficult to find your place in the community.
Mhm.
And I really personally had a chance to make a lot of connections and feel far more connected to the Shenandoah Valley community. And I hope that a lot of people, we've gotten feedback. I think people did. I don't want to say I hope, people felt that too.
Yeah, so I assume you had a little opportunity at the end of the day for people to give you feedback about this.
Yes. Yeah, so we did have a feedback form where we, asked people, how satisfied were you with the event? What would you have liked to have seen? And the feedback was pretty positive. Really positive, to be honest with you. We had, some of the formal stuff with, we asked about like the catering or the venue, and people said the venue could have been bigger. I definitely agree. We didn't anticipate there being, the number of people that showed up, and
Which is a great problem to have.
it was great. Yeah.
So how many people showed up overall?
We had 50 people.
50 people.
Yeah, the space, 50 people, depending on your space, that's not a lot. That is a lot of people. But for our space, that was a lot of people. We were not expecting the scope.
Not knowing how this was really going to go. This is our first try at this, and it's a great turnout. And it was very, very well received by everyone who attended that I talked to. Any lessons learned? I know that you just mentioned a couple.
So many lessons learned.
Yeah.
Definitely to just really have a core planning team that you are close with, that you can kind of trust to help you make decisions and work through all the issues that are going to inevitably come up, and really kind of leaning into the fact that this is a student-led conference that is for students, is by students, is about student work. All of those things are really kind of more of the core things that I think really resonated with people. Yeah,
that was just an incredible outcome of the summit. We had the overarching organization of Sustainable Shenandoah Valley, and yes, there was definitely some faculty and other leadership involved from SSV in making this summit happen. But the detailed planning and all the execution of everything that had to happen in order for the summit to be a success was done by Heather and her team at Mary Baldwin. And I really think that's why it was successful, because the students who came to present and to be a part of the day knew that it was being organized and led by a student team. And that was incredibly powerful for people.
And one of the big decisions that I think we really did right was the overall emphasis on like event management sustainability, which seems like something, I don't know, if you're hosting a conference about the Sustainable Development Goals, you're thinking pretty large scale. You're thinking about these big international United Nations goals. It can seem, kind of far away, even if that's the work that you're, really digging into. So we specifically made an effort to kind of step back and look at the actual tangible impact that our event was going to have environmentally. And so we made it a goal from the beginning to try to reduce the environmental footprint of the event. So we used all compostable, like plates, cups, napkins, spoons, forks, cutlery, stuff like that. And we used an industrial composting company that came in and, provided us compost bins to, put all of that stuff in so that it would be properly composted. We made sure that we ordered primarily plant-based catering to try to, cut down on the carbon emission food consequences. And we provided transportation from all the different universities. That would be something we could probably improve upon, because we didn't get anyone to take us up on the transportation, but we did offer it. We made a good attempt to try to get people to take a bus from, one university to get picked up and then go to MBU. But we're pretty close to each other. I think that if it was a further away conference, it probably would have maybe been a little bit more of a hit.
Yeah, that's true.
Or like what, 20 to 40 minutes away, each of the institutions.
Well, is there anything else that you might like to say about why our listeners and watchers should host their own summit?
Yeah, absolutely. So just, the inspiration component, just having the opportunity, giving students a voice to be able to inspire each other and create those connections, is really kind of the core of the event and what made it really, really worth it. And I can definitely say I spent almost a whole year organizing this, and it was extremely worth it. I do not regret a second of the planning process or anything like that. And now that work has been done on my part, hopefully I can make it as easy as possible for you guys to host one of these if you would like to. So if you do want to follow this example, it can definitely be scaled. It doesn't have to be a whole big conference venue, simultaneous presentations. You can definitely do something on, a virtual platform like we're on right now, or do a presentation like series over the course of a semester where maybe you just kind of have like student guests coming in and doing their 20-minute presentations. It can just be a small group for one university, or it can be collaborative with a bunch of universities, just depending on your connections. Kind of just like the SDGs, they kind of have to be, you can tailor them. You can tailor your, local concerns and local interests to this format. So the possibilities are totally endless. And we provide a bit of a jumping off blueprint as people who have gone through the process. So if you would like to take a look at our PDF form of kind of some of the resources and tools that we built over the process, just forms and the timeline formally and stuff like that, then that can be a really, really great resource for you guys to get the same kind of great energy out of it that I think we did.
Yeah, that's great, Heather. And before we wrap up here, I would also just say that if you want to get in touch with either one of us, you are absolutely welcome to do that. And our contact information is in that PDF form that you have access to. So, Heather, it's been great talking to you today. Thank you so much for coming to explain what the Student Sustainability Summit is and why everyone who is working in higher ed should be thinking about hosting one of these. It was just a very, very effective way of spreading the news about all of the great work that our students are doing on our campuses around the Sustainable Development Goals.
Absolutely. So, thank you so much for the opportunity.
Yeah, you're so welcome. Thanks for listening, and you all have a great day.